Hi guys.
Hey David.
Hey
Hey,
man,
ready
it's
for the
awesome to have
holidays?
you. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So, it seems sunny out there today.
It's actually snowing up a storm here.
Oh, really?
Oh, damn.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the sun is coming through the clouds, but it's snowing like crazy. So yeah, I think
Hmm.
we're gonna get another few centimeters.
Canada.
Yeah, that's Canada. It's been very snowy this fall so far.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
so surprising. Although it's supposed to get warm in a couple of days, so I don't know.
Thank you so much for making the time to do this podcast with us. Um,
Pleasure, my pleasure.
so, the first one was whether you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how that you started out on music production.
Well, I started on in a small studio in this town called Hamilton, Canada. It's in Ontario, and it was run by a couple of brothers named Bob and Daniel Lanois. Dan went on to
Oh,
do some amazing work in England and Ireland, and I followed him. He actually brought me to England to work with him to work with Peter Gabriel. And I was supposed to be there for really only a couple of weeks, but it ended up turning into 20 years of being
Wow.
living and working in England. And when we finished that project, I decided I would just stay in England and find out if I could find any work there in Europe or in England itself. And so I did. And I yeah, really enjoyed myself for those 20 years and did some good work with a lot of great people, and managed to uh, get some great opportunities and build my career there.
nowadays there are, lots of courses, both private courses and academic courses. But back then, I imagine there probably were none to get into the music production.
Well, that's not entirely true. There was a college here called Fanshawe College, which ran a program for music production and engineering, mostly engineering at the time. There were other smaller schools that did have programs, but certainly not like it is today. It's very well covered in the academic world now, the idea of music production. Mostly, I think, probably because the technology has grown so much
Mhm.
since I started, and is really sort of now inextricably linked with computers. So there needs to be some kind of basis. When I started, it was tape machines and alignments and, pretty similar, straightforward things, analog recording. But when, I watched over my career the um, uh, influx of computer technology and microprocessor technology into the work that we did, and we all had to learn it kind of on the fly as it was going. Nowadays, getting into the industry, you have to have a basis of knowledge with computers, with microprocessors, with all these different tools that are now available to both musicians and producers and engineers. And it's a good idea to get some kind of foundation of knowledge for that.
Talking about the revolution with technology, um, are you working like fully in the box now, or how do you, as a mixer, how do you work on your projects?
Generally, nowadays, I am completely in the box. There are, over the years, I just sort of cut down the things that I wasn't using very often when I was mixing. And by the end of it, when I would get work, I'd have to be working on a few different projects every day. The idea of recalling things became more difficult with analog gear. And I found that just moving into the full digital realm meant that I could do revisions on things quite quickly as opposed to having to reset a whole console or even a few sets of outboard gear with the knobs and getting it back to exactly what it was before. Uh, the constraints of clients now mean that it's much more economical for me to get into to be working basically in the box.
Mhm.
So you don't miss tape or anything analog. Like you don't
I
miss it to
do
work
what
with.
What I miss about analog tape, Guillaume, is that I miss the decision making because computer technology allows you to defer your
Okay, yeah.
decisions,
Yeah.
and tape, with the restrictions that come with it, mean that you have to commit to things a lot quicker
Mm-hmm.
and then build upon those things. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you make a decision and it might not necessarily be the absolute correct decision, but when you build upon that decision, it then becomes the correct decision.
Yeah.
So um, I miss I miss the decision-making process. There's a certain character in the sound as well, but I mean, we spent a lot of time trying to combat a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
um, limitations of tape recording. So I miss a certain aspect of it. I miss the immediacy of a band playing together and getting it all down onto a 2-inch tape and doing 3 takes and then cutting in between the three to get the best one and then building upon that, even though there might be some flaws in it.
Yeah.
I do like I do like that kind of immediacy. But
Yeah, you once
unfortunately, we
told
live
me
in a
you were
world.
very good in cutting the tape.
I used to be really good at cutting tape. Yeah. Yeah, I was very good. I could make edits pretty seamless. But, again, the constraints of the industry, the constraints of what I'm being asked to do on a daily basis makes that much more difficult.
Okay.
Mhm.
And do you think you are better now at you still can make decisions because you're used to work on tape back in the days and we are not?
I think that yes, I brought some of that decision-making capabilities from my earlier days of having to do it. But I do often work with clients that just don't have that kind of basis and are used to saying, well, let's just do another playlist. We can do another
Mm-hmm.
take. It doesn't cost anything. And that's true. But I do find that it does lead you into um, a set of situations that makes things just take longer. And I've often found that when you're redoing and redoing and redoing, you're often not improving, you're just making it a little different. Sometimes, like if you're doing a guitar part or a bass part or something and you're making it and it's got a good vibe and it's great, it really feels good. And you can say, move on. Oh, yeah, but then you can come back the next day. Oh, I want to try it again with a different. You can do that and it might be better or it might just be different. So, I find that these days, I do my best when I'm working with a younger band, particularly to try to encourage decision making and not try to go back. I mean, when I worked with artists too in the analog realm, artists would always try to improve and always try to be doing things differently. So, you would have to often undo edits, redo edits, try to save as many tracks as you could, dropping in on things here and there and try to do a better solo. But the sad thing is, let's say you have this great solo that you've done. If you want to do another one, often you have to erase the original. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to commit to
Sure.
that. And that's, just because of the limitations of the tape.
Hmm.
You can make what we used to call slave tapes or tapes that would synchronize to the other tapes, and you could do multiple ones of those. But again, that just multiplied the amount of time you had to then go back and listen to each one, make a composite from that tape, and then a composite from another tape. And if you had unlimited budgets, great. These days we don't have unlimited budgets
No,
anymore.
that's true.
Guillaume does.
Yeah.
An unlimited mental budget, unlimited idea budget. There we go.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so in that same light, like I mean the music industry as a whole has changed a great deal since you started out working in the music business. And we were wondering like how do you look back on that evolution? Like do you like it more as it used to be or do you like it more like it is now? And then I mean like not only the recording process but just the way that you interact with bands nowadays and maybe labels and stuff like that.
I think I interact with bands the same way that I always have. I always feel myself as a conduit to help a band realize the vision that they have. That's sort of my role and how I see it. Labels are still labels. They're the same thing, management companies. What I'm sad more about is the when I first started, people viewed music and art in that it had a value. And nowadays, because people have had music for virtually free or very little money, they sort of music is devalued these days to me, and the artists that tend to create it end up suffering and end up, struggling in order to create the art that they want to create, but not being able to make a living. So I find that the relationship between the music fan and the music creator is the thing that's changed the most over time.
We were wondering, like, how is it you decide whether to work with a band or not? And based on what kind of things do you decide it as a producer or as a mixer?
Well, it's twofold. As a producer, if I'm going to get involved with a band early on, I really want to hear what's in the potential of the band. I want to hear the quality of musicianship, quality of composition. Um, uh, I think that, when I listen to a demo that's sent to me or a previous album, I'll listen to it and sort of glean from that what the nature of the band is, what they're trying to say, um, how capable they are in saying it, and whether I can contribute or not. Um, there's been things that have come to me where I've listened and I've thought, well, this is really good, and I really won't have anything more to contribute that would make it any different or any better, really. And then there's some that come to me that's really, talented and that, but I can see where I could actually step in and go, oh, I see you're going down this road, this is a bit of a dead end. You can go over this road and achieve the same thing. So if I feel like I have something to contribute, then I'll take on that project. If I don't, then I generally won't. Um, as far as mixing goes, similar. I listen to it, but I'm more open to, what a band's vision is because I might learn something from that when they send me something and I'll say, okay, well, I've got a vision for it. If you're hiring me for my taste, then let's try and work together and realize your vision, but with through my filter, I guess.
And do you like it better to mix the stuff you produced, or do you also like to mix something that's like brand new to you?
I enjoy both. I think that when you're working with a band or an artist and you're producing a project, you tend to get like an overall vision of what's going on. And I feel like, at least as a producer, I should get a shot at mixing it and showing what the completion of my vision and hopefully the band's vision would be. Um, but I also love getting new things that I've never heard before and putting my spin on it. I really enjoy that. And I think that people call me a little bit for my tastes and say, well, this person has done things that I've liked before. Maybe if I give them what I've done and put it through that sensibility, then it will have some of the things that, I as an artist might not be able to get to because I don't have that same, area of experience as David Bottrill does.
Mm.
Mhm.
And you always want to give like your own productions a mix yourself, or
I would love to have a first go at it, but if it's not really realizing the vision that the artist is looking for, then I'm quite happy for them to find somebody else to complete the mixes.
It's been over a year since we started recording the album.
Mhm.
We've released it back in October.
Great.
Pretty recent. So we were wondering, did it turn out the way you had envisioned it, or
There were certain things that I hadn't anticipated, but I generally believe that, the vision that you guys had that we talked about at the very beginning was pretty well achieved. I think the record sounds great. It was a pleasure to work on with you guys and to make it. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed all of your company, and well, maybe Diana.
Yes, thank
he's
you
a
so much,
difficult
David, for
person.
that.
God damn.
I'm just pulling your chain. No, I had a really great time with all of you, and the studio is great. So yeah, I had a great time, and I think we achieved, at least by the time we got to the end, I think we achieved what we were looking for. I hope you guys feel the same.
Yeah, we do.
yeah, we definitely do. Yeah.
Mm.
So beside from like preamps and compressors and stuff like that, what do you look for in the studio to record a band at?
For me, recording a full band really beyond like a very clean signal chain, so there's not crackles and distortions and things that are a problem when you're recording. I always look for, a band like a good vibe in the studio where a band feels really comfortable, where they feel like they're really going to create the best thing that they can, and they're happy. I mean, a little bit on edge is good sometimes, but going off to a fancy studio in the Caribbean islands and sitting on the beach all day, for a little while, okay,
Sounds
it's
fun
nice,
to
but
me.
it's almost like a working, yeah, it's almost like a working holiday more than working. I like a little bit of edge, but I do want the band to feel excited by the recordings. I want them to feel excited about going in and playing, and not be like, oh well, this is a little studio and we don't like it, and I don't like the sound of the studio. I like make sure that the sound is good, make sure the signal path is good, and make sure that the band feels great there. Those are the most important things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you stayed in Ghent, right, during the recordings? Did you
I
like the
did.
city?
Yeah, Ghent was great. No, I really enjoyed it. I was not so happy with the first Airbnb, but I
Yeah.
love the downtown. It was great. I mean, I've been to Belgium several times, and so I really love the country, and I have it's a very soft spot in my heart for the whole place. I hadn't spent a lot of time in Ghent. I'd visited there a little bit with Ian Clement,
Hmm.
and Wallace Van Born, but for the most part, I hadn't spent an extended time there. So doing it this time was a lot of fun. I really really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of older European cities, it's beautiful. You know,
Yeah. Well.
Brussels gets all the good press, but
The Dio
Ghent,
lives
Ghent is a
there.
funkier,
Yeah,
fun place.
Dio lives in Brussels, yes. So.
Yeah.
So you might want to
Yeah,
forget all about it.
it's a short commute. Ghent and Brussels is about as far away as Toronto and my hometown, which is about an hour away, right? So it's
Yeah,
maybe an hour and a half at the most.
it's a
You know,
small country.
Yep.
between that and Antwerpen and Mechelen and those places like Bruges,
Yeah.
lovely Bruges.
It's all packed in a small, very tiny
Yeah,
country.
yeah.
Um, Speaking of which, so you've done work with quite a few Belgian bands like Wallace Van Born and Stake Number Eight and Deus, um, and maybe more. I don't know. Um, and what brings you to Belgium? Why would you do that? Why would you not like?
I th I think it's when I first worked with Deus, word got around Belgium that I was doing work with Belgian bands, and I just people would reach out to me. So yeah, I never expected to do as much work with Belgian artists as I have ended up doing, but I've been very grateful for it. I think the Belgian artists have been a lot of fun. You know, Ian's great. Tommy was great. Klaas is great. Like I really enjoy the people there. They're
Mm.
unusual to me, being a Canadian. Belgians are a
Really?
little bit unusual. Yeah, yeah. They're different,
What's
but
wrong with
but
us?
but fun different. There's nothing wrong. I didn't say anything wrong. Just different. And I
Yeah.
love meeting people from different places. So for me, it's a plus.
Yeah,
And how you
If
mean
I just worked with
difference?
Canadian artists
You're
all the
talking
time,
about
it'd be
Dio
really
again,
boring.
aren't you?
Can you name one thing at the top of your head? What's different between Belgian people and Canadian people?
Um, I think just like from a composition standpoint, people in Belgium write things differently. They have a different
Okay.
compositional approach, I think. It's more um it's a freer compositional approach, I think. In North America, there's a more of a structure. And I
Okay.
think it's a freer thing in the Belgian compositional style. Which is why, people like Mark Lanigan would come to, Belgium
Yeah.
because, he was a freer thinker of music and less structured or less
Hmm.
standardized, right?
That's
yeah.
true.
Do you,
Chris Whitley, Trixie Whitley, and
Yeah.
people like that come there because it's more of an unusual and a freer approach.
yeah. Do you think that has to do something with pop culture
No,
and
it's in the water. It's in the water.
In the
I mean,
beer.
Yeah, it's a little pop culture, I think.
I mean,
Yeah,
is that something that is decided by radio and television, or
sure.
yeah?
There's commercialism to what's going on,
Mm,
which going down a little of that rabbit hole too is the way that we create these days with virtual instruments and quantization and standardization of chord progressions and things like that. That does homogenize music a lot, um, and make it, which is why it's kind of fun to go into funkier studios where the sounds are not exactly the same as you've heard a million times before, and you get different approaches because there are different instruments hanging around, and you know
Yeah.
you can get inspired without having to dive through a million menus on a computer. You can just walk over and, you know, go play the euphonium or go play something like that.
yeah.
Okay.
Nowadays, you can even write a song like in 10 seconds using AI.
Sure.
Yeah.
On your phone.
Yeah. How do you look on the whole artificial intelligence subject? Do you think mixing and songwriting and producing is going to be replaced in the future, or
It's hard to say. I mean, the easy answer is, well, yeah, AI is replacing everything.
Mhm.
But I did read a little message from a friend of mine who'd said that he was out with a younger person and they were having a conversation, and the younger person was speaking, but would sort of slow down and stop, and then eventually what he said is that he's used chat GPT so often to complete his thoughts when he's writing that he's forgetting words and
Wow.
forgetting, like he said, his brain is kind of slowing down. So I wonder how much AI can I mean, AI is going to be very, very powerful without a doubt and be able to do these things, but will the human listener be able to tell the difference between something that has been created as an amalgam of a lot of things that AI has listened to in the past, or whether it's something completely new created out of the ether by a brain and experience. I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I know the feeling of things that I've heard that are AI generated, and we're in the early days of it, but will
And
will an will an AI song make me cry one day? I don't know.
Mhm.
do
Maybe.
you use it yourself often, like ChatGPT
No,
to help you
no,
with
I've
something? No.
never I've never turned it on, to be honest with you. I don't
Keep it
don't
that way.
Yeah. I mean, I use, when if I'm writing or helping with lyrics, I'll use rhyming dictionaries or things like that. But
Hmm.
I don't, I don't use it for, I mean, I don't use it for email construction or anything. I just write my emails. I suppose I could. I just don't know that, um, like, again, it's like if it's a labor saving device to do things. But I was also in a symposium the other day, a little conference, and they were saying, we want to use AI to do the mundane things, to do the things that are boring, that are not, repetitive perhaps, or things like that. But I think, first of all, I thought, well, every budding engineer who's an assistant at the moment in this thing just lost his job
Yeah, of
because
course. Yeah.
that's what you use interns for, and people that are starting out in the career. And I think that the problem is for me is that when you do those mundane things, particularly when you're starting off, you gain a certain skill in operation and a certain skill in the way of thinking of doing things, and you learn things through doing repetitive mundane tasks that if AI is just going to do it for everybody, then there's going to be a gap in knowledge when it comes time to be doing things that are really important.
Hmm.
So I don't know how useful these things are. I mean, I can see for me, sure, if there's things that that I doing when I'm mixing that I could do over to AI. It's like this. So when I'm mixing a song and I do it in Pro Tools, and people laugh at me for doing this, but particularly if I don't know the music, less so if I do, but particularly if I don't, I will go through the whole song and when I'm working on it, and I will cut, not cut the waveforms, but the on-off switches on the mixer in Pro Tools. I'll turn them on and off around the audio that's going on. And for me, it's an absolutely, well, from a technical standpoint, it's really an unnecessary thing to do. But for me, it's also part of I'm getting to know the song and the sensibility of the song by looking at the arrangement and like kind of writing out the arrangement as I go. It's like, oh yeah, there, okay, and this is what's happening, and this is why this stops in the chorus and moves to there, for example.
Hmm.
And for me, it's a really useful tool to do that mundane job, but it also gives me information and insight into the piece of music that I'm working on. Sometimes I'm sitting as I even to myself and like, what the fuck am I doing this? This is stupid thing. Why am I bothering? But it really does, particularly if I don't know the song beforehand, to inform me a little bit of the music and give me. I'm slower probably at mixing than other mixers because of that, but I do find that I get a better insight and I get a better idea of the intention of the song by doing that little mundane job.
Well,
Yeah, efficiency probably isn't the most important thing when you're working on music, right?
Not always. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, again, if there are deadlines, and you have to get something out, sure, I get that. But I find that I work quickly enough in other areas that covers that. And for me, it's just like it makes it less of a hired gun thing. I get more involved. I get more invested in the music by doing like
Hmm.
that and other little mundane tasks that come with mixing. That yeah, I'm sure I could get AI to do a lot of things, but I like to do it myself. Like, if the vocal needs tuning a little bit, then, for example, then I'll do that and I'll go through it, but I'll also be listening at the same time to the vocal while I'm doing it. It's not just throwing it in, going, okay, yeah, I tune the vocal. It's like, I'll be listening to it. And then sometimes if there's a line that's maybe a little flat, but it's flat in a bluesy, really cool way, then you leave it because it's like, well,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't learn that if AI was just doing it because they would just put it all in tune, just be
Mm-hmm.
perfectly tuned. And this way I can listen to the intention of the singer. The singer actually meant to be a little bluesy on that note and not perfectly in tune. And if I'm taking that out, then I'm removing the character of the performance.
mhm.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's very true. Um, so you were talking about the way that you mix. By the way, in my mind, you're a very quick mixer. I think I've never worked with any mixer providing us with um new mixes that are so quick. You're so quick to make them. It's it.
I have a level of experience and I'm pretty good at not perfect, but I am fairly good at interpreting when somebody comes back with a set of revisions, what they're going for. And I'm usually able to interpret that fairly quickly. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases I am. That's why it's quick.
Yeah. Well, that's an awesome way to work. I mean, especially for us
Yeah.
uh, as the band.
One thing I do love, I mean, like, okay, I love being other places. I love being in Belgium. I love being in Italy and being in Australia. I do not like traveling to Australia. I do not like traveling to Belgium. Airports have lost their novelty about 20 years ago to me. So I love being other places. But if I'm working with a band, particularly, like a band that might not have the biggest budget, can't afford to fly me over to mix something somewhere, and I'm in my comfortable room where I've been mixing for years, at that point, being able to do remote sessions over video and to have people sitting at home listening on their comfortable, you know, sofa, earbuds or speakers or whatever they're listening on, and be able to run it and do a mix with everybody like this kind of environment, that's great for me, because I'm in my comfort zone for mixing. You're in your comfort zone for listening. So being able to do it that way for me is a really, it's a more enhanced creative way to do it. Sure, you can all go to a studio in the south of France and do it there, and it can be fun. But then you're still going to go home and listen to it and might be disappointed by something, and you can't really just fly back there and go and do it again again, without an unlimited budget. So, I do like it allows for, the ability to get it exactly like you want it. You know, if you go off to the south of France studio, which will be beautiful and the wine will be great and everything, at that point you have to make the decisions like, well, we're going to do it, and here's what it's going to sound like, and we commit to that at that point. This because it's very little going back. So it's a balance. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe the going to the great studio somewhere else is inspiring in other ways. So I'm not dumping on that. I think that can be a way, but for me, when I'm mixing something particularly precise and that requires a lot of my attention, I do like to be in the area in the zone where I'm comfortable doing it.
I see. Well, maybe that's something that changed a little after COVID as well. I imagine during those 3 years, the only sessions you did probably were remote sessions.
Well, no, I went to Atlanta. I made a double Mastodon album in Atlanta.
Oh,
So,
okay.
in
Awesome.
the studio, we were all just real careful, you know. And the guitar player Bill, his son got it at one point, but he isolated for a few days and, worked at home. But again, we were all in the same room at points and working together and overdubbing together, and it was, it's a great process to do it like that. We can do it the other way. I've done it the other way too, and it's fine. You know,
Yeah, because I
it's
do admire the way you worked with like Lani when we were recording the backing
sure.
vocals. It was a difficult thing because there was like a webcam on Lani and on Seba, the engineer, and on Jorge and the rest of the band. And
Yeah.
I think you did like a really, really amazing job. I was
I'm
to do
getting I'm
something on
getting better at
remotes.
that. Yeah, I'm getting better at that kind of remote production, I think. But it's still a little
Yeah, it's not the same,
somewhat
but
unsatisfying. You
yeah.
know.
If you recorded in a remote way from your place, then I guess you never get to write the stories in your book.
That's another thing. It's harder.
I wanted to ask you something more about the stories that you write for.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to remember them all.
We love them
Uh,
so
let- let's
much.
let's just say, Marco, that yeah, and this I don't do this on every record, but it's a lot of fun to to make up stories about characters in the band and sort of make them a little into caricatures and do things like that. It's a fun way to pass the time in the studio for me and to hopefully make people smile and laugh a little bit
Yeah,
when we're doing it.
Sure
So
did.
it surely felt like a welcome distraction during.
I forgot my name actually. What was
Marco
my name?
Steele.
Marco
No, that
Steele, yeah.
that was Jorge, was Marco Steele.
Ah,
yeah, Yoda is Marco Steele. Yeah.
What was my name
Uh,
again?
it was yeah, they're written in my book, but I haven't got my book with me at the moment. But yours was the hyphenated name, I remember, Guillaume.
Yeah,
curly
Yours was
shithead.
curly shithead. Yeah, that was yeah.
long hyphenated name.
Okay, so um, I guess we have one more question for you. Um,
Okay.
and that's like if you could give one piece of advice to new bands or new artists or even new producers and people working in the music industry, like one key piece of advice that you've gathered through experience, what would you say?
I would say um, probably please yourselves, because at the end of the day, when you're creating something, if you're always second guessing yourself, trying to chase a market or chase a style or something like that, for me that um, you lose a certain amount of intention and integrity with what you're doing. Um, I think follow the things that really inspire you and try to create in the way that makes you feel proud about what you've done. And then at least, at the end of the day, whether it's successful, hugely or less, you can be happy with yourself that you created the thing that you wanted to do. I've done lots of records with people where, they've fought against people trying to, pigeonhole them or corner them into do things. And they've done things like that, and it's been unsatisfying. Whereas, and other things where they've done what they wanted to do, it not been very successful, but at least they got to say what they wanted to say. So I would say, yeah, please yourself.
All right. Sounds
Thank you.
And that goes for producers and sounds. It's like what makes your socks go up and down when you're hearing
Yeah.
something, listening to something, that snare sound that's crisp and bright or fat and dead, like what do you like the sound of? And define yourself, define your own genre. Don't try to chase what the fashion is of the week of that particular hi-hat sound or that particular guitar or keyboard sound. Do what makes you feel really excited, because at that point you're going to write in a way that you're really excited, as opposed to, again, trying to chase the fish that was last week's fish.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, what we're doing now as creators, I mean, that is your calling card. That is who you are. That and any, sort of visual media that you have. But this music is who you are. You have to be proud of what you've done. Otherwise, you're living a lie.
That's true.
Now, within a band, lots of people are going to have different opinions on things, but then you build an amalgam of that. And that's actually the coolest thing is, like everybody has their influences and brings those to the table, and you fight over it. And then you come up with something that's unique and new as a result of that. Right. And there's always compromise to a certain degree, unless you're a solo artist and you hire a band,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But if you're a band, there may be leaders and there may be, sort of support, but everybody's going to come with an opinion, and everybody's going to come with a creative idea, and sort of building upon that within the band often comes up with something that none of you expected. And that's always kind of rewarding when you hear something back. It's like, wow, I never would have come up with that, but it's really cool, or this really accentuated something, or I fucking hate that part. But then somebody else says, that's my favorite fucking part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're with 5 people in the band.
Yeah.
But you know
was-
what? But it was 5 people in the band that respect each other. Otherwise, there's no point. If you don't respect each other, then there's
Except
no
for
point.
Dio.
Except
Yeah,
for Dio, we
usually we
respect Dio.
agree Dio is wrong, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dio, you're the whipping boy again.
Actually, it was during the recording of this album. I think that's what stuck out the most compared to the recording of the first album, is that we all got together and had much more influence on the production side of things. And that totally lifted the the whole album in general.
Keep building on it. Keep doing it.
Yeah, we will.
Album number 3.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're getting old.
There you go.
Okay, so David, thank you so much for making the time, and it was awesome seeing you again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. It's lovely
Yeah.
to see you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Enjoy the
Say
snow.
hi to
Take
all my
care.
Belgian friends there.
Yeah.
Will, happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
You
David.
too. Happy holidays.
Ho,
Happy.
ho, ho.
Bye, man.
Ho, ho.
man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.